Thanks for joining me today. My name is Lee Orphan. I am a tour leader with Bicycle Breeze. I've been traveling to Cuba for about 20 years now, and I've led eight bike tours with Bicycle Breeze in that time. Um, the photo here is just of right out at Maria la Gorda, Fat Mary at the western tip of Cuba. So the focus today is this Fat Mary tour, and I'll begin by explaining a bit about Bicycle Breeze. So Bicycle Breeze is the tour company. They've been in business for over 20 years. It's run by Peter Marshall and his wife Anna, and they live out of Havana, so they're centrally located to support the tours. The Fat Mary tour, we just announced this week that it's a go, so we're starting to take deposits this week. So it's good to have that happening. We do have some space for additional riders. The tours themselves are aimed at riders of all ages and abilities. We've the e-bikes that are available really are a leveler for people, enabling people to ride that otherwise might not be comfortable. But we do recommend a reasonable level of fitness. All of our tours include the cycling, sightseeing, walks, hikes, beach time. We make sure we fill the days. It's not just about riding the bike. The tours are fully supported, so everything in Cuba that you require is provided by Bicycle Breeze. There's an air-conditioned luxury bus that follows us along the route. It stays with us while we're cycling and provides us with bottled water and snacks that we bring, anything that we've brought along with ourselves as a snack along the road. The group the support crew is a Cuban cultural tour guide. So that's an employee of the Cuban Culture Ministry. Carell has been my guide for most of the last 2 years, and he provides information on all the cities we're visiting, the history, the culture, and anything you might want to know. He'll also give you the scoop on what it's like to be a Cuban and how it really is to live there. You get a tour leader, which in this case is me, a bike mechanic, and we have Ioanni. He's considered, by me at least, the best bike mechanic in Cuba, and of course, a bus driver. So just to mention the support for Cuban youth cyclists, Bicycle Breeze maintains a network and connection with the provincial cycling teams in Cuba. So the youth cycling program in Cuba is run through the school system. So there's sports schools, and at the sports schools, the youth attend classes during the day, and they also participate in their sport during the day and train. And there aren't, the bicycles that they have mostly been donated. And the thing that they require is more equipment to maintain those bikes so they can keep riding. So, of course, this is not mandatory, but and it certainly shouldn't feel like an obligation, but we do encourage people to bring donated bike parts, especially tires. 700 by 23, 700 by 25 are perfect. Also tubes and chains and handlebar tape and things that wear out. Anything you can provide helps. And a lot of us talk to friends. We can clean out our stash within our house and get rid of some stuff that we've had hanging around. And also it can help to talk to bike shops. Sometimes if they know you're going to Cuba to support Cuban youth, they'll donate equipment for you. So this slide shows the Fat Mary tour route. So it begins on that green dot at Matanzas. People can either fly into Havana, slightly to the west, or Varadero, slightly to the east. And we'll gather in Matanzas for the first day of the tour. It heads from Matanzas through Havana and then west across the edge of some low hills, that the green area there, Sierra Oregnos and the Sierra Rosario Mountains. So beautiful scenery. We don't attack the hills head on. We kind of come at them along the edge. We ride all the way to the western tip of Cuba, Maria la Gorda, and then we take the bus back to Varadero, where we end the tour.
Oh, take the bus back, huh?
Yeah, it's about 700 kilometers. So there's the bus that we have that follows us every day on the route. We begin on the road called the Via Blanca and ride to Hibacoa. It's a really special road, follows the Atlantic Ocean most of the way. Our first stop is the Belmar Caves in Matanzas, so spectacular under cave. We spend an hour or two there, get some information on the caves, and do a walking tour around the caves. We ride towards Hibacoa, crossing the Bacanayawa Bridge. There's our tour group from a few years ago with our Fat Mary jerseys. This little bar on one end of the bridge where they make pina coladas. They serve it in a pineapple, and you get to pour your own rum into the pineapple. We head on to Havana. That's pictures Havana Vieja, the old town. It's in my mind like a piece of Europe. It's the buildings have been restored to excellent condition and really well maintained. And we'll spend many hours walking around Havana and seeing the sights with our tour guide supporting us. We take a ride along the Malecon in vintage cars, which is a hoot. Everybody always enjoys that. There's an example of the Cuban youth cycling group we met last year and some of the equipment we took, and that's how we support the Cuban youth. We'll be visiting a group near Maria on the west side of Havana on this tour. As we head west along the edge of the mountains, the Sierra Rosario biosphere, we come to Saroa, and in Saroa we'll spend a night, and in the morning we'll do a walking tour of the orchid garden. There's about 18,000 orchids there, I'm told. It's on the edge of this mountain range. It's really very low mountains. I hesitate to call them mountains, but you can see how green it is there. So it's a little cooler, a little fresher, and it's a perfect climate for orchids. We head up farther west and come to uh, Che's Cold War headquarters. So during the Cuban Missile Crisis in Cueva de los Portales, Che established his headquarters, and at the back of that cave is a concrete block structure where he coordinated Cuba's work during the Cold War. We cycle to Mil Cumbres, again up in those low mountains. There's my friend Jim on one of our e-bikes. So the e-bike is a great leveler, as I said earlier. Those bikes are able to go up the hills around 25 kilometers an hour, and I certainly can't go up the hills at 25 kilometers an hour. So, as I say, they're a great leveler for anyone that wants to join us but can't face pedaling and keeping up with a group. We head into the Vinales Valley, and in the background there are the hills called Magotes. They are what's left of a limestone plateau and had eroded away, and it leaves these little hills. You don't actually ride over them, you ride around them. So there's no hill riding, but it's just spectacular scenery. In Vinales, we eat dinner at an eco farm. So at the back there of the picture is the Magotes. And on the right is the vegetables that they grow at the restaurant and serve at the table. So it's a farm to fork experience. We ride from Vinales, we ride to Coyotes and have spend a day on the beach. There's a lovely restaurant there with seafood, and the platform that we're sitting on is hanging out over the Atlantic Ocean. We can go for a swim before and after lunch. Vinales is famous. It's in the tobacco growing lands, and it's where they make cigars. There's our friend Benito. He's quite a character. He will roll a cigar for us, show us how cigars are rolled. You can see the cigar leaves curing in the background. And while we're there, they'll serve coffee and some sweets for us. And from there, we ride through Pinar del Rio and on to Maria la Gorda. That road there is sort of an example of a rougher road in Western Cuba. And when we get to Maria la Gorda, it's a beautiful beach. It's a dive center, and you can snorkel right off that pier. There's fish under the pier, and we generally we work with one of the uh, dive boats if it's available, and we can go out on their second day, on our full day in Maria la Gorda, and do some snorkeling on the reefs about a kilometer offshore. And the boat usually takes us 3 or 4 kilometers up and down the coast for a few hours. Then we do take that bus and we take it, I think it's about 700 kilometers. It's about a 7 hour or 7 or 8 hour ride back to Varadero, where we stay at an all-inclusive resort for 2 nights. Gives us a chance to relax and decompress. It's all you can eat and all you can drink extravaganza. We have a final dinner at the Xanadu Mansion. This was the DuPont, known as the DuPont Mansion or the DuPont Cottage, where the DuPont family spent time before the revolution. I'll just quickly go over the other two tours. So one of them is called Colonial Cities and Beaches. So a week after Fat Mary, I'll be leading this tour, and it's in central Cuba. So it begins in Havana, and then it's a counterclockwise loop, and we go to Playa Huron, Bay of Pigs, down to Trinidad, Cienfuegos. We stay at Lake Hanabania for 2 nights, which is a beautiful eco area on a reservoir where we do a big hike. Go to Santa Clara, where Che Guevara attacked an armored train and effectively ended the revolution. We spend 2 days in Cayo Santa Maria, where we have some nice beach time, and then we cycle back through Colon to Havana. So that's the Colonial Cities tour, and it's got a bit of an emphasis on those cities. And the third tour is in March, so a week after Colonial Cities, Gringo Viejo, Old Man. I guess that's me. So this one follows pretty much the same concept as Fat Mary. This map isn't the correct map. That's actually the Fat Mary map. So this tour begins in Havana and ends in Havana, and we spend a day cycling around Havana at the beginning. We head to Mariel. We go to Las Terrazas. We do the El Contento Trail in the Sierra del Rosario biosphere, and then we carry on into this part of Cuba, similar to what Fat Mary includes. And after we reach Maria la Gorda, again we take the bus, but this time we come back to Havana. So just a quick summary of all the tours. Typical riding distances are 25 to 100 kilometers, generally around 60 or 70 kilometers. So, 30 to 40 miles, sometimes as much as 50 or 60 miles. But the tour bus is there for anyone that doesn't want to do the whole ride. So often a lot of people will ride 20 or 30 kilometers and then hop on the bus and stay there for the rest of the day in the air conditioning and have a beer or relax. The terrain, we like to take the quiet back roads. There is some city cycling, but we often use the tour bus to drive us to the outskirts of the city so we can begin on the outskirts and not ride through town. There are some rolling hills and countryside, so again, reasonable level of fitness is recommended. The road surfaces can be rough and there can be potholes, so definitely recommend wider tires if you're bringing your own bike. In general, I'd say most people use a hybrid bike. They work really well, they're comfortable, they've got good tires, but also gravel bikes, cyclocross, and touring bikes are great. And as I mentioned earlier, there's e-bikes available. The bike rentals are $15 a day for the hybrids, and then go up to about 30, 35 for some of the fancier bikes, including the e-bikes. Mentioned the support you get. The tour prices include all accommodations, most meals. What it doesn't include are some of the lunches when we're cycling, because we're just on the road and we often will pack a sandwich or find a restaurant halfway through the ride and have our lunch. Airfare is not included because people fly from all over the world for the tour, and other expenses would include things like having drinks in the evening after dinner, or any souvenirs you want. The prices are at the bottom of the page there for the 3 tours. They're very similar. and the single supplement is roughly $300. So thanks very much. On behalf of Bicycle Breeze, I'm your tour leader, Lee Orphan. I'd love it if we can stay in touch. There's my email address if you ever want to get in touch with me, and the company website. All right. So there we are. So that's a quick summary of this winter's plans. So do you have any questions?
Yeah, the question I have is the Colonial tours. What's the mileage on that one?
Yeah, they're all pretty much the same. Like, 10 days of cycling, and, the distances are going to be 30 to usually 80 or 90 kilometers at the top end. So 15 to 60 miles.
So it's the same as last year when we did the Eastern and the mileage.
Celia.
Yeah.
Celia.
Yeah.
Yeah, you both did the Celia Sanchez tour last year. It's pretty similar. There aren't any, like in Celia, there's that one long day along the coast, the South Coast Road. There's nothing as long as that on any of these tours.
Yeah.
So we were talking earlier about food. So in the West, the food tends to be better. Havana's a big city. There's good restaurants there. We'll got some fancy meals in Havana. And because Havana's the center for their commerce, that's where, there's just tends to be better availability for food and things like that.
So the Colonial one, you don't fly into Havana, or you can fly into Havana?
Yeah, most people will fly into Havana for that.
But that's not where it starts.
Yeah, it does.
Oh.
Yeah, the Colonial starts and ends in Havana.
Okay.
It's just Fat Mary that begins in Matanzas and ends there. Yeah. Currently there's flights for the States. The flights generally go down to Miami and then hop from Miami to Havana. There's a flight available every day of the week to Havana. And what was I going to say?
You were going to say Trump is in.
Yeah, it's a bit of a wild card, isn't it? But
blockade is only going to get worse.
Yeah, so the flights are daily. Most people that are flying into Havana come a day or two early. You can come in, stay at a casa for about $30 a night. Usually we find a casa for somebody within 100 yards of Peter and Anna's base, Cafe Rueda. And that works really well. People get to settle down, get used to the heat and humidity, which will be more than we'll have up here in northern North America. And then they're ready to go on the Saturday when the tour starts. Mm-hmm.
Have you been filling all these tours, or have there been some that didn't go?
Yeah, so far, I mean, the first tour of the season has been running for the last 10 days. It's gone fine. So it was a version of Colonial Cities. It's also called Cayo y Seis Ciudades, and that's been underway for 10 days. And there's another tour at the beginning of January, which is full. So the tours are filling up. On behalf of Bicycle Breeze, I'm your tour leader, Lee Orphan. I'd love it if we can stay in touch. There's my email address if you ever want to get in touch with me, and the company website.